Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Blues Traveler performs live at Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia on Friday, October 7th. I spoke to bass player Tad Kinchla, whose brother Chan Kinchla formed the group with his high school classmates for hits like Hook and Runaround. Hey, Tad. Hey, thanks so much for joining us on WTOP.
Good to be on.
Now, we're talking with Tad Kinchla of Blues Traveler because the band, the awesome band's coming to Hollywood Casino, Charlestown Races, West Virginia on Friday, October 7th. The band's been rocking and rolling for what, about 30 years, 13 studio albums, all kinds of stuff. So you have a ton to choose from. So how do you guys, is it like the greatest hits? Do you mix in new stuff, or like what do we see set list wise?
You know, that's always kind of it obviously gets harder as we get older and make more music. But we try to hit on like kind of everything from, all from the very beginning to kind of our most recent, which was a blues album. So it's, which was kind of, funny to be a band called Blues Traveler with a harmonica player and not really be a blues band. We're more of a rock band, but we did a blues album and actually got nominated for a Grammy. So it was kind of cool to say, yeah, we're a blues band.
Finally earned the title. You don't have to go by Rock Traveler anymore.
Yeah, it's not a bunch of white guys from Princeton anymore, maybe.
You earned the blues cred finally after all this. Well, you mentioned a bunch of guys from Princeton, New Jersey. So because obviously the band was founded there in in 87, and can't remind our listeners sort of those origins, wasn't it? Obviously it was your brother and John Popper and the guy, like it was a high school group, like a garage band in high school, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a basement, and not the garage, but it was in Brendan's basement because he was the drummer, and you always go to the drummer's place because they don't have to move their drums. And
this is Brendan Hill.
Yeah, they started it. Yeah, Brendan Hill. And Bobby Sheen was the original bass player, and they were all classmates at Princeton High School. And that's where they started. And then obviously I joined in about 2000, let's just say. But yeah, it was a basement band that has kind of gone on to be able to play for a living.
Nice. Now is Chan is he your older brother?
He is.
Okay, cool. So what was it like, having him as an older brother? What did you hear about them forming this band, or could you hear them playing whenever they were over by your house? Or I want to know, little brother tagging along kind of a thing.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I'm a bit younger than them. Chan's about 4 years older, and then John's about 6, and Ben, yeah. So I kind of missed them in high school. I was like in 8th grade, so I went over to high school after they had moved on to the city. But I certainly, as of 6th grade, I remember Bobby borrowing my amp, and then they'd rehearse or do whatever and get some party gig or something and come back, and the amp would be just like totally fried. And so and that happened multiple times because I was playing too, but my brother got a guitar for Christmas, and I was like, hey, I want an instrument, and my dad didn't know what to do, so he went to the music store and got me a bass. But it was funny, it was an electric bass with no amp, so for about a year I just would like clack around trying to make noise on a bass with no amplifier. And then finally I played upright in the classical and stuff like that. But I knew these guys, right when they started. Went to their first 5 or 6 gigs, which were maybe a church, maybe a Princeton University free concert. I don't think they were paying gigs really until a little bit into the history. How it works.
Right, exactly. And a lot of our listeners might not know. In fact, I had forgotten this too. And again, I know it was before you were there, but wasn't there some sort of connection with the formation of the Spin Doctors too? Like
Chris went to Chris Barron, the singer from Spin Doctors, went to Princeton High School, so we were all friends in high school. And he was in the band as well, and did singing and stuff. He moved at about the same time to New York to try to pursue music. So he started, and he used to open up and do acoustic stuff for Blues Traveler, but then met his boys, and they started opening up some gigs for Blues Traveler, but got their own legs, and clearly from wrote their own story from there on. But yeah, I mean, like lightning struck twice at our high school during that period.
How crazy that, yeah, those two of those, the bigger bands of the whole, what would be the 90s era, came from the same
Yeah.
high school hallways. That's so crazy to me.
Yeah, it is pretty weird. And then
Something in the water fountains in that hallway.
yeah, I know. And then Trey actually went to school in Princeton too. Trey Anastasio from Fish, he went to PDS, which was, the private school across the other side of town. So, and that was a couple years before Blues Traveler. So it was kind of an interesting time there.
Yeah, across the street, maybe the same water system. You never know.
Yeah, maybe the same water.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, do you know how they actually got signed for that self-titled debut? It was A&M Records. How did that actually come about? Have you heard that story passed down?
Yeah, actually I do. Because I mean, I know all the intimate details of because we were excited. It was a bold move for the band to kind of go from high school to New York City to pursue music. We come from a town that's kind of a educational town, Princeton University, blah blah blah. Expectations are you go to college. When all four of them, they did some music school, to be honest, but it was not in pursuing a full college degree. So it was a bold move. Going to New York. So I knew all the kind of integral details, and I used to get on a train and go in on Wednesdays to Wetlands and see their whole thing. Nice. So the way the signing happened is they used to play frat parties at Columbia while they're in New York, wherever they can get gigs. Dave Graham, Bill Graham's son, Bill Graham, the legendary promoter from out west, went to Columbia. He started going to see the band play some other gigs and was told his dad, was you got to check these guys out. Bill Graham came through, I think, for a Allman Brothers tour that he had booked or whatever, and went down to a show, was I like these dudes, and put them on opening up for the Allmans, and this is coming from doing gigs at in New York to an opening slot on an Allman Brothers gig. And then that kind of I think there was enough word with the tape and Let's Travel around New York that some A&M reps ended up going out and seeing those, and then they got signed from there. But it was really Bill Graham who got credit, should be credited with helping find the band.
That's really, really cool. Yeah, and that first one.
Yeah, and it's just it's right time, right place. What are the odds of Dave Graham going to Columbia, being boys with a bunch of friends that ended up going to the show, and
it's always right time, right place. That's always the story, and that's what you just got to get out there and keep putting your music out. See what hits.
And there's so many great musicians that we tour with or open for us or blah blah blah. And that it's it is. I mean, if everyone who's deserving got signed, there'd be tons of music out there. It's just it's good luck and good karma and just be good to people.
Absolutely. So obviously, I guess But Anyway was on that first album. I know it was re-released later or whatever, but they did a couple more albums, Travelers and Thieves, Save His Soul. But I guess the fourth one, aptly titled 4, was the one that really blew up and went mainstream with radio hits and stuff. Tell me about Runaround. Everyone's gonna remember that one. I guess it won the first Grammy for the group.
It did. Yeah. It was, and it has some record for being in the top 10 spot or number 1. It still holds the record somewhere in the radio history for being up there. So.
Oh, that's great. Do you know any? Do you know, again, this is before you joined, but do you know any good stories that maybe at least your brother or John or the guys have talked about? Writing that one, recording that one.
Yeah, I mean, one thing is they didn't think when they were recording it up at Bearsville Studio up in the Woodstock area, they didn't think Runaround was going to be the single. They were, I forget what it was, but it was just. One of the songs on the album. By no means was it, a lead single candidate. And I think the producers were like, no, this is good. And they're like, it's 4 chords, it's the same song, and that I thought that was really interesting that, there wasn't an conscious effort to make singles, I think, by the band.
Right.
As far as, so that was kind of interesting.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I just thought I remember growing up and hearing that and just thinking it was cool hearing so much harmonica on the radio for a change. I was like, this is cool. And in a mainstream song. Um,
Yeah, right.
and didn't the video, if I'm remembering, wasn't it like a Wizard of Oz vibe to the video? All
Yeah,
right.
and that was and I think that one of the actors too kind of had a look like he was the Counting Crows singer. He kind of but that was totally coincidental. But I remember he got a little upset about it because he kind of looked a little too much like him and
Did he
moved a
think you were
little bit.
spoofing him or something? Or
Yeah, I think so. I think there was a little bit of a like, hey, what, the first time we kind of crossed paths with them. So, but it's all good.
they
Uh,
smoothed it over?
they smooth it. There's all sorts of dumb stuff that
Sure.
that gets said and then get misconstrued, and and John's a very open and honest person, sometimes a little too honest.
Yeah.
It doesn't get read right. So, but yeah, that
It's great.
getting back to your question, yeah, it was a Wizard of Oz thing.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that was a combo. It wasn't like one person's concept. It was just getting money to do a video. It's like, sweet, we'll do whatever you want.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think it's I mean, it was a gem, man. We can all still sing it. I think it was like in VH1's top songs of the 90s or whatever. It was a great one. But then the other one on the same album was Hook.
Yeah,
Because the hook brings you back. Talk
yeah,
about I always thought were they going for like a double meaning? Obviously, I mean it's the hook of the song and the title's the hook. I mean, I thought that was
yes,
kind of cool.
yeah. No, that's the double entendre, and kind of, and the reference to Pachelbel's canon, like clearly a very recognizable, melodic phrase, and it's again like Runaround. Oddly enough, I think the '90s was pretty big on like repetitive chords, like choruses that are the same chords as the verses. It seems if you listen back, you're like, not, I mean, there's formulas to pop, I think, that still exist, but especially back then. And it's really nice listening to 90s music because it was like real people playing the instruments.
Man, I miss it, and you don't want to sound like old fuddy duddy because I obviously I cover this stuff. I know all the new music too, but I miss my wife and I talk about it all the time. I miss the sound of people actually playing.
Yeah, no, and it's those intricacies. It's like a weird story. It's like I played for my son who's 9. I have twins, and they're 9.
Oh
And
no way,
a
I'm a twin
while back,
myself.
is that right?
Yeah, twins are
Fantastic.
awesome. Go twins.
Twins, yeah, go Twins. I'm a big fan. Um, well, I played them some, like my son's kind of oddly gifted with rhythms, and I played him some Zeppelin, which he really far back would rock out to. Really loved the drums,
Yeah.
but said something when he was like 6. Was just like something's. He like held his hand up and was like something's weird. And even at 6 and 7, he knew that the rhythm fluctuated in the song, within the song, which is part of like the whole magic of all the old recordings. The
Yeah.
drummer wasn't locked in a grid, but we're so accustomed to doing it now and listening on the radio that
Yeah.
people hear when a tempo fluctuates. And it was so funny he said that. And I'm
That
like, yeah,
triggered
it's
him. He
speeding up.
noticed it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, because Jimmy Page is like ripping it, and, and like
Literally
Bonham's
ripping it
speeding
in the
up.
moment. You're
Yeah,
hearing the live
yeah,
slight fluctuation. Oh,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
I
Which
miss
is
it.
interesting because, yeah, yeah, I agree. The thing is though, it's like once you add the element of like the software, and once you get something on a grid, you can go back and edit whatever you need when it's quantized.
Yeah.
And I do get that allows you to do so much more versus trying to fit in a part over a part that's not, synced up. And then you have bleed through because it's quicker. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of practical
There's
reasoning
reasons
for
that,
it.
yeah, exactly.
But some of these bands have enough money that they could just, like, why don't you just play it live and see how it comes out? Like you have the 2-inch tape and the money to do more.
I'm with you, man. Didn't after that, I'm a big movie guy too, so I'm pretty sure didn't the Blues Traveler get they brought back But Anyway for the Farrelly Brothers for the Kingpin soundtrack?
They did, yeah, and they were in the movie as well as on the farm, the Amish farm. At the end, after the bowling competition, they go back with Randy Quaid, who's quite a trip
Of
himself.
course.
But and they're on a wagon playing. But anyway, and it
Oh yeah,
pans out, and
they're
that's how the
dressed as
movie ends.
Amish, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
with beards and stuff, and
Right.
so yeah, that was pretty good. What a great movie. We had a tech that didn't know that, and we are watching it, and he at the end he looked, he was like, "Wait a second," and then we watched the whole movie the other night. It was pretty good.
Oh, I was just talking about it the other day with somebody, and my favorite line, you're talking about, when they go to the Amish country, and my favorite, it was with
Yeah.
Woody Harrelson. My favorite line is when they go, "Oh, I got up early and, I milked the cow for you." And he's like, "We have a bull." And he goes, "I'm going to brush my teeth."
Yeah, there are some gems in that. There are some scenarios, but also John was in it. He was the announcer at the bowling at the finals, and he has
Bill
this
Murray,
horrible
yeah.
comb over. Yeah, he has a horrible comb over, just like Bill Murray, and they really, that's Bill Murray is so good in that. That's such a classic.
Oh, it really is. Roy Munson and what's he? Big Ern
Yeah.
McCracken.
Yeah, Big Ern. That's right.
A lot of people. There you go. I'm glad we had a second to hold up Kingpin, because everyone rightfully so, talks about Dumb and Dumber, and there's something about Mary for the Fairleys, but Kingpin was right in between those two, and
I think so. Yeah, and it might hold up as my might be my favorite. I mean, they nailed all of them, so it was all good.
So good. Well, we'd be here all day if we talk about all the albums. But is there any gosh, this is gonna be a hard question, I guess. But like in the album since that big the big blow up on the radio moment that we just is there any ones that you're since you joined the band that you're particularly proud of, that you could maybe, if our listeners are like, I want to know some deep cuts, is there an album that you think particularly you're proud of?
Yeah, there was an album we did called Bastardos.
Bastardos.
In Austin. And it's kind of a trippy album, and we don't play many of the songs live because there was a lot of track and layering. And we did it with Jay Bennett, who was the producer, and Jay was part of Wilco and had gone off. He is no longer with us. He had passed away, sadly, but is an extremely bright and creative producer. So he produced the album, and we were up in Austin, and there's some really trippy parts, and some of the songs are kind of like very idiosyncratic, and it's almost like I'll listen back and I'm like, oh my God, I forgot we did this, these songs. So I would, if they're looking for some deep cuts, Bastardos is a good one.
Oh, cool. And that was in what, like 2005? Is that right? I think.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, ish. Yeah. I might. Yeah, I'll give it 2 years either side at this point.
Nice. And then just remind us, you joined on with the band. Was it when the original bassist Bobby,
Right.
when he passed away?
Yeah, Bobby Sheen passed away. Yeah, and then the band took a little hiatus, decided to keep playing, and then I tried out for the band in '99 and joined in 2000.
Awesome. Well, it's really cool to see it going strong. I mean, well, stronger than ever, really, because like you just mentioned, the traditional blues album Grammy nomination just this year. So
and
stronger
also
than ever.
that we had and we had a really fun tour with Train and Jewel this summer. It was actually really great to get out and play some big sheds, and so this year's been phenomenal. We've been really cranking and really enjoying playing as always, but kind of things got shaken up there for a while with quarantine and everything.
Oh yeah, after all that, it's got to be great to be back and playing for live audiences again, for sure. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you joining us. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else? Real quick. I think my listeners will appreciate this. Will be a good soundbite. Before we go, talk about John Popper's harmonica skills. Like, do you how does he play that thing so furiously? Like, it always I like get hypnotized watching a really good harmonica player.
Yeah, it's because it's weird because you can't really see, like other instruments, piano, you see the notes being hit, or guitar, you see you impress people by harmonica, it's all happening in here. And especially with him, he's got his whole rig where he has the Leslie speed on it. There are buttons switch amps. It's he's got his whole thing, but you can't see it happening, and it almost looks like you could fake it if you were just like but he was Jimi Hendrix. He loved Jimi Hendrix, and saw the Blues Brothers, and so it was like, wait, maybe I could try this on, had a harmonica
Yeah.
and got it and started doing that. And that's where he kind of got into doing harmonica. And yeah, it's just it's a tough thing to, be able to, he says this all the time, to suck and blow, like
Yeah.
in a coordinated way.
There's
also,
your next album title.
Yeah, he's been trying for years to get that going. So don't advocate that. I don't. You know what? Who knows? Who knows? We're doing an album this February, so it's very, I'm sure that'll be on the idea board.
That's probably better for the next Farrelly Brothers soundtrack.
I think so. We got to get in touch with them, or just a movie in general. It could work.
There you go. Well, yeah, let that the seed of the idea, let that grow. Well, we can ask you about it another time.
Yeah.
Awesome. But first, don't miss Blues Traveler at Hollywood Casino, Charlestown Races in West Virginia. It's Friday, October 7th. So get your tickets now. Tad, thanks so much for joining us again. This was so much fun.
Yeah, man. It's good to talk to you for sure.
All right, we'll catch you later.
Yeah, be good.
I also spoke to Tad a previous time when Blues Traveler played the Fillmore in Silver Spring, Maryland back in 2015.
What's up, Jason?
Hey, how's it going, Tad? Thanks so much for joining us on TOP.
Yeah, good to be on.
Now, have you guys ever played the Fillmore before?
I think we might have played like 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
But I am not sure. Sometimes it gets a little foggy, the venues that you end up playing. And there are actually other Fillmores around, obviously San Francisco being the most notable one.
Absolutely. And you've been with the band, you replaced the original bassist, right, Bobby, after he passed away?
Bobby Sheen, yeah, correct.
But your brother was with the group before, right? A guitarist?
Yeah, that's correct. I kind of like grew up vicariously with them. I'm a little younger, and those guys were a high school band, so I was about a full, 4 years. So I was in kind of 8th grade when those guys were graduating. Yeah, so I kind of saw the trials and tribulations of the band as they kind of grew and kind of, became a more popular band, and, kind of its whole kind of beginnings to, playing these really crappy clubs to better crappy clubs to, kind of strike a lightning, and then all of a sudden it's, kind of big amphitheaters and big tours and all that.
Yeah, what you mentioned there was a high school band. Where was this? Was this in New Jersey?
Yeah, in Princeton, New Jersey. We all grew up there and went to Princeton High School there.
Gotcha. But so you were just kind of observing bro there for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then
well, yeah, I mean, we both got into music early. I got a bass because my brother got a guitar, and my parents were like, "Oh, we got to get her something." And and I actually, it was funny. I got a bass, with no amp or anything, so I was just kind of playing an electric bass with no amp. And I actually got into music, I think, even a little before my brother, and like singing choirs and stuff like that. So I picked up classical bass when I was like in 5th grade and played that, through high school, and then went to college and actually started. I was in my own band there, and then we actually moved to New York and we're playing there for several years. So, I was just kind of at the verge of kind of shifting from, all right, played music and, kind of the two of us have done this and was going to shift out. And then, all this stuff went down with Bobby passing away. And, I just happened to still be playing, and they held auditions. And there's like 4 or 5 different guys. And, I'd actually never played with them before, jammed or whatever, but never played with Blues Traveler before until the audition. So, it's just one of those things, kind of, it felt right, and I'd been in the family, and we all knew each other well, and, I knew Bobby very well, and, I kind of put it to him this way, like, I'm not going to replace the kind of playing that Bobby did, like, that's just not my style, and, if you want to do that, get a guy that does that well, but, right. And they all agreed, they're like, no, we're kind of moving forward, obviously we can't recreate that, foursome that they had. And the fit was good, and then kind of picked up from there, and kind of have been doing it ever since.
Definitely, you brought a little of yourself to it, then I guess.
Yeah. I was just like, I just play different, So, yeah. And luckily enough, Brendan and I, kind of really hit it off playing as far as the rhythm section, and obviously, 15 years later, we're pretty we know each other pretty well, and I mean, it really kind of, obviously John and Chan have leads and stuff like that, but as far as the band goes, you really need to have a rhythm section tight before you could get all the other stuff put in place.
Exactly. Well, you mentioned that obviously you didn't officially join the band until, what was it, like 99 or something, right? But you mentioned before that you've done some jam sessions with them informally. Take me behind the scenes and what that was like. So you're with Chan, your brother, and on guitar. Is John Popper there on the harmonica, and you guys are all just jamming out before you even knew you were going to be a part of the band?
Yeah, but like several years different, and also it was like we played a lot of the same clubs that Blues Traveler did when we moved to New York. My old band Dowdy Smack was a 3-piece, and we were doing really well, starting to pick up. It's kind of like a Chili Peppers type of band, just a 3-piece kind of funk band. Not funk, but in that genre. As much as 3 white guys can be funk. We'd play gigs a lot of the same places. So, Chan would come down or John would come down and sit in and stuff like that. So, it was kind of, the cool thing was like us playing our songs with them playing on top of it.
Right, yeah, that's true. Well, what was it? I mean, obviously you weren't in the band when Blues Traveler really blew up around like 94, I think. But you've played the songs enough to now it's basically, you're part of the deal now. Is it wild to see people nowadays still freaking out when you first play Hook or Runaround? Is it wild to you that those songs are, still as popular as they are?
Yeah, yes and no, because like there's certain songs that we're lucky enough to have a fan base that has stayed with us, and I mean, it seems like almost all except for Fish and even Widespread, I'd say, of that like kind of those jam bands playing around then had the songs that kind of hit and got popular and mainstream. And it didn't change the band. Like Dave Matthews didn't change as a band just because he got some, mainstream popularity. And Blues Traveler was the same. It didn't change. It's just kind of fortuitous and lucky for all these bands to have like, a song that was, kind of very open and accessible to people. And I think, it's just those songs are kind of, like I said, they're very accessible, and there's a couple generations of kids, that are coming through different, kind of there's a kind of a pendulum that swings to like rock, to folk, to disco, to back to folk, to rock, and it's like every 10 years or so it seems to go in a different direction. And right now it's like a lot of Americana and very acoustic type stuff, and which is great, but a good song kind of transcends that, it stays through it. And I think the songs are solid. And so when we're playing it now, it's not like the same people that first heard it that are listening. It's, newer audiences and people that might not know Blues Traveler. And it's actually really cool because, they actually pop live as well. So it's just lucky that, we have some, stuff in our repertoire that, we can play the guitars that, kind of, people are like, oh yeah, that's right.
Well, tell us a little bit about the new album. Let's say some of our listeners on here, haven't heard your newest stuff. Tell me about Blow Up the Moon. Don't you have some guest collaborators on there, right?
Yeah, that's actually the entire album is collaborations, and it was really cool. It was a really fun process. Like all the songs are done in collaboration with other artists.
Who are some of them?
And it's we did a bunch with we did some with Dirty Heads. 303 was another one. We did some stuff with Jewel, Thompson Square, Plain White Tees. I mean, we were really all over the map. And it was a really cool process. Actually, we really learned a lot, and also just realized that it's if it's just fun making music with different musicians, and we all got along well, and we're fortunate enough to have everything kind of work out. And then came up with like genre-wise, there's like 5 or 6 different styles on there.
Yeah,
that are it's really cool.
It's all over the map,
and I think. Yeah, it really is. I mean, we put, about like a country ballad, and then we did stuff with 303 that's kind of programmed with, stems and overdubbing and stuff, and then the Dirty Heads, kind of a reggae rap feel. So it was awesome for us. And we've collaborated and played live a couple of those with with those guys since, including at Red Rocks. We had Rome from Sublime, who sings with Sublime now, and J.C. Chazé, who is from NSYNC, and he happens to be producing and stuff, and came through and kind of worked on one of the things. So he actually came out and sang with us. So it was actually as eclectic as it gets.
Yeah, it really
and then
is.
we did stuff with Hanson. And we actually did stuff with Hanson, and Hanson was out for that too. So we had, all four and 303. So
yeah,
it was a pretty rockin' time and the fourth.
That's eclectic, man. How do you actually,
it is.
How do you call those people up? And I mean, Blues Traveler has the name recognition. A lot of those artists kind of got big around the same time you guys did too.
Exactly.
So do they? The second they get a shout from you guys saying, "Hey, do you want to collaborate?" Are they instantly? Oh, I remember those guys. Do they kind of have that nostalgia for it too?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've been around, we've been playing the whole time, and we've crossed paths before. But we kind of, we got the idea to do these collaborations because we did some stuff before, and we were like, let's do it. So we threw it out, and and there was a relatively tight time frame. So there's a bunch of people that we wanted to do stuff, just couldn't do it touring wise, and
right.
And then a bunch of people we were able to do and fit in because we had to kind of pop around. Find times where all of us were available. But we were really amazed at how many people were psyched to do stuff. And, instantly we were like, yeah, absolutely. And, it's a testament to what the band has been able to kind of create over time as far as their fans and stuff.
Yeah, 12 studio albums. That's nothing to sneeze at right there. It's talk about, what's been the secret to your guys' success in terms of just be able to keep it going? There's been a lot of bands that blew up right around the same time that Blues Traveler did that have since broken up or faded or what have you. But how have you guys been able to keep it going for 12 albums? That's incredible.
Yeah, I think we all like to play. And, we change our sets up all the time. Like, we have a constant rotation of who writes the set. That's been going on since I joined and before that. So it's a new guy every night. And, there's a pretty good repertoire, so we can keep it fresh. And, we do, we're able to do impromptu changes. And, so it's not like a set list that, we get bored of. Obviously, there are songs that we're going to play. And, any smart band would do that. You don't just say, "Oh, we're not going to play our hit." Well, some bands do, but then people leave. I mean, I personally don't like going to a show where they don't play the songs I like. Right. Or just at least a couple of them. We enjoy playing. I think that's almost the biggest thing that holds you together. And you got to be able to tour, and if you don't like touring, pretty quick.
Definitely. What's the thought behind that? You mentioned that you when you go to a show, you like to see them at least play the hits as well as all the other new stuff. But what's the thought behind? Is it we want to give them what they paid for? They probably bought a ticket to hear some of those songs as well as the new stuff.
Well, no, I think it's just that recognition that seeing a song that you like and have a place for and spend space and time in like your life and remind you of certain things. It's like seeing live, that song performed and the way it's, kind of projected by the band is something that,
right.
I think is important to remember when you're given the opportunity to play and people are paying to see you. I think that those things are, for us, yeah, we've played it thousands of times, but it still is fun. Like you said, there's a reaction, there's a visceral reaction when those songs start up. And, and it brings people to like a time and place if they were older or, when they heard it or, something that might evoke a certain, kind of memory. And I think, it's hard to have that open mind when you do it professionally and play every night. And it's, but I think most performers will, admit that there's a certain, kind of, while you play it every night, it still is kind of new, because it's a new crowd and a new bunch of people,
Right. So you never truly get tired of playing those?
No.
I hear it in his
really.
voice. I hear it in his voice.
Listen, it's like, you're lucky enough to be able to do this for a living and you're on stage performing and most of the time it's, 99% of the time it's a positive reaction. So, being able to get on stage and play a song that people are happy to see you play is, a gift. So you don't get tired of that.
Totally. And in terms of the new album, when you're playing stuff from that at the Fillmore. How do you pull that off? Because obviously all of your collaborators, you're not going to have Hanson and 303 and everyone touring with you probably. So, how do you guys pull that off? Do you just play it yourself and find a way to?
Yeah. We had to pare it down, and then me and Ben sing like the harmonies, and we, change things up, and we change it up, and Ben and I pick up the harmonies, and we kind of adjust to what the song entails. But clearly our Ben and our renditions of harmonies are not the same quality as other professional singers. But we do our best, and it's fun to see, a pared down version. However, the 303 stuff, we had a bunch of stems and a bunch of like overdub stuff that was kind of atmospheric. And for the first time this year, we're actually touring with, some backup tracks and playing along with those. And actually, that's really cool. I mean, because in the context of the show, there's a lot of similar sounds. And this allows us to kind of break out and kind of play more simple and allow some different, atmospheric stuff. And it's cool in the context of a set to have different, slow and fast songs and, kind of broken down songs. And, so it's actually been really quite fun.
Definitely. You mentioned a few seconds ago, your Red Rock show. I don't know if everyone knows this, but I'm pretty sure, with the exception of when the bassist passed away, I think that was the one year you guys didn't play in the Red Rocks in Colorado on the 4th.
I think we're up to like 22 years.
Oh, wow. That's quite a stretch.
It is. We're the longest running, yearly act at Red Rocks. And, it's great. We get placards every time you play. You get a little piece of the Red Rocks on a plaque and stuff like that. And we have closets, and it's just like, I can make a table out of all the rocks that have been given, which I actually might at some point make something cool out of it.
You should. Have you thought about that before? Did that idea just slip out, and now you say, "Oh, that sounds pretty good"?
No, actually, this year, I was like, I could probably pull the rocks off these placards and put them onto like a, make kind of a cool coffee table out of this thing, and it actually would be pretty dope. So yeah, I will set my mind in motion and see. Maybe I'll borrow some from some of the other guys and make a really big table.
I think you should start building it while we're still doing this interview. I think that would be it would give it an immediacy.
I can see how big I can get it. But no, it's I think our favorite venue to play, and we always it's been just so good to us, and they've been so good to us, and it's in like the best venue in the country. So we've lucked out. Like we have a yearly gig. One of our biggest shows is at like the coolest place in the country on like a great day. So, that's pretty fortunate.
Yeah, keep that one going as long as you can.
Yeah, I know. And if you look at, over the years too, if you look at the list of bands we've played with, and it's probably at this point like 80 or 90 bands. Wow. It's like eclectic, and it's been cool. Like I think we did one with Ziggy Marley. And he came on and sang No Woman, No Cry with us. And it was like, was just, sold out show, packed. He came out and he sounds just like his pop. And it's just like, it gives you shivers. That was like an intense moment. It was really cool.
That's got to be surreal. And didn't that whole tradition start with, weren't you playing for opening for Allman Brothers?
The band got its break with the Allman Brothers opening up, years back. And that was kind of their first push into kind of getting in the jam band scene and all that.
What do you think it is that makes people keep coming out to your shows? Is it the uniqueness of your sound? Is it there's not many bands that can do the harmonica like you? You don't hear that with many bands today. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a combo. I mean, we really play tight as a band. We get that a lot from other musicians. Like, they're like, wow, it's a cool experience to see a band all keyed in together playing. Obviously John's a virtuoso on his instrument, so that's another thing that sets us apart. And there is kind of like, it's just hard to have your own sound as a band. There's a lot of great bands out there, but they don't necessarily, you wouldn't hear like the beginning of a song and be like, oh, that's them.
Right.
Just by the music, With Blues Traveler, you don't have to have even singing, and you're like, oh, okay, that's a Blues Traveler song. And, it's kind of, it transcends at this point, like us and Dave Matthews and Fish and Widespread. So we kind of transcend because it's, 25 years, most of these bands, or 30 even for some of them, that, we've been together. And, there are fans that were, in high school when they first started seeing her at like fraternity gigs and now they're like CEOs of their companies or whatever. So it allows you to play like a whole bunch of different kind of genres, and you get some private gigs, and then you play theaters, and then because there's like 3 generations of kids out there who like music, so it's, you know, we've been able to kind of hold on to you know, kind of each progressive kind of, you know, every 4 years, say there's a switch in fandom just with college kids or whatever. You know, we've kind of been able to pick up our fans along the way, and it's, you know, we're always out there touring, so if they want to see us, they look, oh yeah, wait, they'll be here in 6 months. So it's, you know, you got to be out there to be doing it, and we've, you know, managed to hold on. So it's, you know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's got to be nice to have a faithful following. How about here in D.C.? I mean, we interviewed Better Than Ezra the other week, and they said for some reason, they don't know if they just got a lot of D.C. airplay or what, but they said D.C. was like a huge block of their following. How about for you guys? Where does D.C. fall in the mix for you guys? Do you play here often?
Yeah, we get through there probably every year, and if it's not like in D.C., it's just right, you know, with stone's throw.
Right.
You know, we play Annapolis almost every year, and then, you know, go up in and around Maryland or Virginia. I mean, we're always right there. DC's great. I mean, we're from the tri-state area, so it's, you know, that's just like the fertile crescent of where the band started playing.
Sure.
You know, colleges and all that. So we hold a you know, kind of a nice spot in our hearts for that East Coast and that whole corridor from like DC up to Boston. You know, that's kind of where the band got its roots and started playing, and we have a lot of, you know, family and friends in and around there, so it's great for us.
That's awesome. All right, cool. Thanks so much for taking the time, Tad. We really appreciate it, and you know, best of luck with the tour, and we'll see you here at the Fillmore.
Awesome, can't wait.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, good talking.
Finally, I spoke to singer and harmonica player John Popper at the 2017 Grammys on the Hill, honoring Keith Urban at the Hamilton in D.C. Mr. Popper, nice to meet you. Hey, we need a taller tripod for you.
Story of my life.
Yeah, right? All right, we're here with John Popper of Blues Traveler. I grew up with your stuff. You're the soundtrack of my life, man. Are you kidding me? But how big of a Keith Urban fan are you? I mean, God, he came on the scene a few years after you guys, but but he's been just as prolific. I mean.
His songwriting is great, and I can't wait to see him perform. You know, I'm very psyched. It's cool. He deserves this honor. It's pretty amazing.
As a fellow musician, though, I mean, not only can he write songs, but speak to his ability to play that darn guitar, man. He can shred.
Yes, he can shred. See, I always respect players a little more than singers, being a singer. But I'm also a player, and Keith, you got the goods.
You can do the harmonica, though. I don't know if he can.
No, but he doesn't need to with a guitar like that. Yeah, you don't need the harmonica. Screw that. You don't need that.
Exactly. I know you've kind of fielded a lot of these questions already, but in terms of the more advocacy side, you know, why is it important to have this event here every year? And you know, I guess, you know, every time there's a new administration coming in too, you don't want it to be sort of a backslide. So, you know,
you want to kind of make a case and try and get the word out as to why it's important that recording musicians have some way to make a living and be able to afford making recordings. And so this restructure kind of is, I think, the most important in that aspect. And also the reflection of producers being artists. I mean, that really would help the whole system. And this hasn't really been addressed since, you know, for 40 years. I think it's kind of time we took another look at it.
Why do you think it took so long? I mean,
why? People are used to it. I don't know. You know, we were talking about that all day, and, you know, maybe one aspect was things were so bad before that when they addressed it in like the 70s, they're like, okay, we've done it, we've improved it. But, you know, the technology, of course, 40 years ago is nothing like it is now. No one had any expectation of that. And it's odd, like satellite radio actually does pay a royalty for performers. And it's only terrestrial radio that's been around that long that continues to do that. And I've found out that very few countries still do that. That's an interesting thing. So I think that it's important to make that case every year.
All right, and final question real quick. What are you performing tonight? Are you doing the national anthem?
Yes, yeah, I think I'm starting that. Yeah.
Doing that in the nation's capital, how was
exactly. That? See, I've done it in some interesting places, and this is definitely one of them. I'm excited.
Well, we're looking forward to it. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time. I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.